Do you need to buy a home because you have a family to raise? Do you want to buy a home because you want to start building wealth? Do you want to buy a home because you don't want, the landlord saying, I don't want you to paint the walls blue, whatever, right? But at the same time, we know people that spend $5,000 a month to rent somewhere. They could afford to buy. They don't want to.
Yeah.
It's not where they're at in life.
And, some people don't want that responsibility of home ownership.
Hey, babe. How are you?
I am great. How about you?
I'm good. I feel like, what is today? Wednesday?
It's Wednesday. I know. It's been a really long week. It's every Wednesday. There's a lot going on, which is really good.
There's a lot going on, yes. But last week, I put a poll out there on our social media pages. You remember that? And I said, what would you guys want to hear us talk about? What questions do you have for us as people or in our business? And we had a bunch of responses.
We had a lot of good responses too.
Yeah. But one of the ones that we got that really kind of piqued our interest was from Anthony Barone, who is a listener out of Chicago. And he wanted to know, what was a better time to buy versus the better time to rent, right? I can't tell you how many times I've been asked that question in the last 9 years.
So is it more so trying to figure out when is it a good time to buy or rent for themselves personally?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, that's something I've been asked.
I know, we get asked that all the time.
100 times a year.
So if you don't mind, I'll just kind of put a little input on that real quick. So I think it definitely is going to come down to I'm messing this up.
Your what? For me, it's where you're at in life.
Yes.
Yes. Your position. Right.
Yes. I don't know why I couldn't get that out, but yeah, just everything that's happening in your life, take it into accountability. If you're free spirited, you want to move around, you want to travel, you want to explore different areas.
Yeah.
Buying a house probably is not the best option.
Yeah. I mean, I've always looked at it. And when I say I've looked at it, I mean, this is really the data that's out there. The best time to buy is when you're ready, willing, and able.
Yep.
Right? It's not about our rents going up, our mortgage rates coming down, our prices going up.
Because a lot of people make a mistake and they try to time the market.
Can't do it.
You cannot.
You can't.
Nobody has a crystal ball.
Nope.
You cannot predict those changes. I mean, nobody could predict what was going to happen during the COVID market.
No. I remember the day that everything started shutting down. We were sitting on the couch and we looked at each other and we were like, what does this mean for the rest of our year?
Yeah. It was scary.
And then we had our best year ever.
Yeah.
Right?
Nobody was expecting home values to triple and for sellers to get $150K over their asking price.
No, everybody said the real estate market was going to crash.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, we've been hearing that for years.
I know. But so when you're ready, willing, and able, right? Like you said, you can't time the market. You can't time the market for low prices, low interest rates, high inventory, and low competition. Yeah. You can't. It's never going to happen. So you're always dealing with something in the marketplace that is affecting prices and inventory levels and values.
Yeah.
But do you need to buy a home because you have a family to raise? Do you want to buy a home because you want to start building wealth? Do you want to buy a home because you don't want, the landlord saying, I don't want you to paint the walls blue, whatever, right? But at the same time, we know people that spend $5,000 a month to rent somewhere. They could afford to buy. They don't want to.
Yeah.
It's not where they're at in life.
And, some people don't want that responsibility of home ownership. Like, for instance, when we bought our house and moved in, less than a week of us being in our own home,
Yep.
Our AC just went to crap on us. And that is a pretty expensive repair. ACs are not cheap to repair.
That was a lot to fix.
And I just remember, when we were renting, we had an issue with our AC and it was fixed immediately.
Yeah.
And that was nice. So
home ownership comes with responsibilities,
Yeah.
right? And at certain points in your life, you're ready for that responsibility. And at other points you aren't, right? So like you said, it was Anthony asking us, is the best time for you or the best time in the marketplace? There's no best time in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you're waiting for interest rates to get down to a certain point, think of how many other thousands of people who are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, competition will get stronger.
So today is Wednesday, September. What's today's date? I don't even know.
18th?
18th, right? So the Federal Reserve had a 0.5 point rate cut today as we're recording this episode, right? And that eclipsed the rate cut that was already factored into the interest rate marketplace, because they were thinking there was going to be a 0.25 point cut. So mortgage lenders had already factored that in. Well, they came out with a 0.5 point cut, right? So
Which is great.
What I was reading this morning, and I'm not a mortgage guy, so don't roast me in the comments. Oh, the real estate agents are stupid, all that stuff that people always say. I'm just telling you what I read, which was a 0.5 point cut would have an effect, overall good effect on interest rates, mortgage rates coming down, right? Okay. So what does that mean if you're a buyer that's been waiting for that? Well, so is everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? So I think I read every 1 point that there was an interest rate cut, 5 million more borrowers became qualified to make a purchase. So think about that level of competition that all of a sudden, like you said, if you're waiting for rates to drop and you think that's the better time to buy, all of a sudden the house that's been sitting on the market for 45 days with no offers, by the end of the weekend, it's got 5 offers, and yours is one of them.
Yeah. And I would say my best advice for anyone who is really looking at interest rates and stuff and, maybe trying to use that strategy is go talk to a lender and see what your buying power is. Because if you can buy at a higher rate, and I don't even really want to say higher rate because I think COVID got us used to 2% interest rates, and that's not normal either, guys. No. So at a more steady interest rate,
A more normal rate.
A more normal rate. Okay,
Right.
that's great. A more normal rate. See if you can buy.
Yeah.
And if you can, do it.
Yeah, because as I think about the question that Tony asked,
Yeah.
it always brings me back to this, which is the number of people since 2015 that have come to us and said, I need to buy a house, or I want to buy a house, right? And didn't. And they didn't buy. There was a couple of reasons. They're all the same. I feel like this house is too expensive. I feel like the market is going to crash, and I'm waiting for that.
I want to share something because it's so crazy. It was wasn't a Facebook memory, but Facebook shared like a blast from the past or something. They're doing something new now. And it was a post that I did in July of 2016.
Okay.
And it was a new listing of mine that I had gotten from door knocking.
Okay.
3-2 pool home. And it was in my parents' neighborhood, Riviera Bay.
Was it like 300 grand or something?
It was $265,000. And you want to know what?
It's probably a $500,000 house today.
That, and back when I listed it, I had so much feedback saying they thought it was wildly overpriced.
That's what I'm saying. That's where I was getting.
Yeah.
Is that for every person that was in a renting situation and came to us and didn't buy because they felt like the prices were too high, that rates were too high, that the market was going to crash, all that's happened in the ensuing years is prices have gone up, inventory levels have gone down. We've seen an increase in inventory levels here recently, but over the span of the last 5-6 years, there was less inventory on the market. Prices went up, interest rates went up, so the affordability came down. And the people that didn't buy, the biggest thing was that they missed out on that wealth building. They can still buy today, right?
It's just a lot more challenging.
Well, not only, yeah, but you always...
Because I saw a stat recently where there's, like, your income to how much you're paying for your house has gone up drastically.
Oh, yeah.
Like, a big portion of people's incomes is going towards their mortgage payment.
Absolutely.
Over the last, 6 years. So, It's been harder, and that's the frustrating thing, is because, okay, people come to us and they want our professional opinion and guidance.
Yep.
And that's what we're trying to do. If your long-term goal is to build wealth,
Yep.
work with a great agent.
Yeah,
Can
because
guide you through that.
right. And you have to understand, as people that are in the business, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that it can be perceived that we're just trying to get a sale and a transaction, right? Oh, you should buy a house. It's a good thing to do. Dude, I don't care if you don't buy a house, right? It doesn't hurt me. But when I see, you always have this perfect example. Guys, listen, we bought a house in Shore Acres in what, 2022?
21.
First of all, if you listen to us ever talk, horrendous with dates. Tina's got one of those weird minds where she knows what happened on August 15th, 2014, right? So what year was it?
2021.
All right, so we bought our house in Shore Acres
December
in 2021. But a couple years before we bought our house, we looked at a house right down the road that we didn't buy. And we didn't buy it because I felt like the kitchen...
I wanted to buy the house, so that was in 2019.
And the house was
on Tanglewood.
And the house was on the market at like $325,000, right?
Well, a little bit more. It was about like 380,
It was under $400,000.
under 400,000.
3-bedroom, 2-bath, pool. Yeah, nice
Two-car
house.
garage.
I thought that the kitchen was a little cramped, whatever. There was just something about the house that I didn't think we should pull the trigger on.
And I was like, we need to buy this.
And what year was that again?
2018.
Okay, so 3 years later.
2018 or the beginning of 2019, somewhere in there.
So 3 years later, or just this year, that house just sold.
Yep.
How much did it sell for?
600,000.
Right. We missed out on that wealth building.
And I remind you of that every single time we drive home, because we have to drive past that house on the way home.
Our friend listed it because she helped the people that did buy it, and then she put it on the market. And I'm telling you, when the signpost went in the ground, Tina was like, I'm calling her to find out what they're listing this at. And when we found out, she was like, I told you she should have bought it. So that's what, for the people that stay in that renting situation, that for me, it's that. It's
You miss out.
You're missing out on that, what they call forced savings, right?
Yeah.
If you're renting somewhere for $3,000 a month, or you're paying a mortgage for $3,000 a month, it's $3,000, right? But when you're renting, it's $3,000 given to your landlord, and at the end of your lease term, you move out. You've got nothing to show for it. If you're putting $3,000 a month towards your mortgage, you're paying down your mortgage while the home is gaining in equity, gaining in value, so that when you get to the end of it, you're like, hey man, I've been here for 5 years. We need to sell it. The house is probably worth 30%, 40% more than you paid for it. Your mortgage is decreased, unless you've done refis or whatever, but your mortgage is decreased, and you sell it, and you take that $200,000, $150,000. That's what they call forced savings. That's money that you would have never saved on your own, right? You wouldn't have. So the forced savings aspect of buying real estate versus renting it, for me, is the biggest. That is the thing.
Yeah.
If you want to stay in a renting situation because, like you said, you don't want the responsibility or the...
You don't want the responsibility
Yeah.
or just the flexibility.
Right.
And also there are restrictions with renting. Like, okay, like I'm a German Shepherd.
I was just going to say that.
I'm a German Shepherd mom. So if I can't rent somewhere where they don't allow German Shepherds, then what am I going to do? I'm not going to get rid of my dog.
No.
No.
Yeah.
So when you own a house and you have a fenced yard, you can have all the German Shepherds you want.
I always think about, there's a couple apartment buildings here downtown St. Pete, where there are units in these buildings that are $7,000 to $8,000 a month.
I know that
And there's people living in that.
blows my mind.
And I asked them why, right? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what is it about owning something that just turned you off to the point where you would spend that kind of money every month to just get a place to stay?
Yeah, and you
Right.
don't get anything back in return.
Nothing at all. Yeah. And it always comes down to, we just don't want to own. We don't want the responsibility. I don't want to have to call my own lawn guy, AC guy, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want all of the responsibility to fall on the landlord. Like you said, if your AC breaks, I just want to pick the phone up, call the landlord, send your AC guy out. I will tell you this, though, because in the renting situations I've been in, it's never that easy. They're like, oh, the AC guy can get out there Monday at 10. It's Friday at 5.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, so what do we do for the weekend?
Yes.
Right?
That would work for me.
No. So to Anthony's point, it's really about where you're at in life and what works best for you.
And think about your long-term goals too. Like if you really do want to build wealth, then turn to real estate. Like everybody that is really wealthy has always gotten their start from real estate.
Oh, real estate has made more millionaires in this country than any other industry, right? And we know those people within our own sphere, guys that are like, oh yeah, I'm a mortgage broker or whatever, and I own 15 rental houses. And you're like, okay, right?
Yeah.
They're insulating themselves against recessions and all that. Mm-hmm. If the tenant quits paying their rent, they still have the asset, right? They'll find somebody to rent it, or they'll just sell it.
And I would, like, if my brother came to me and asked me the question, Tina, should I buy something now or should I wait and just rent in the meantime? I would tell him the exact same thing. Let's speak to a lender.
Find out what your buying power is.
Find out what your buying power is and buy.
Yeah.
Like, especially if he is wanting his own place. I'm always a huge believer in owning just because of the wealth building. If you're somebody where, okay, yes, I want wealth building, but I'm traveling a lot, then maybe it's a situation where you do buy something, but you rent it out.
As an investment property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always an option.
We know people that have done that, that have bought homes that they don't live in, and they have a tenant in it, and then they rent somewhere else. That's a specific strategy that the Rich Dad, Poor Dad guy teaches, where you could look at housing as a liability or an asset. And some of their teaching is that owning housing is a liability because it doesn't cash flow you, right? So a lot of those guys that follow those teachings will rent because renting is just, there's no liability there. I don't own this building, I'm just paying to be here. It's like leasing a car, right? And then they own rental properties and they let those cash flow them. So it's an asset. I guess it's just a different way to look at it. What?
Is the market going to crash?
Is it going to crash? Any day now. I mean, is it? What do you think?
I think people are concerned. One, we are in an election year. A lot of people believe that whoever gets in office is going to make a huge difference in the real estate
Correct.
market.
Yeah.
Historical data has shown that no matter what president, on whatever side, it doesn't have a.
It doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do anything to the real estate market.
Historical data shows that the real estate market does whatever it's doing before and after an election. If it's going up before the election, it continues to go up.
Yeah.
There is typically a slowdown in new listings in the month of November of an election year, but that's it. That's the only effect that it has.
Yeah.
And
coupled with the holidays too.
Yeah, but there's always a seasonal slowdown in activity.
Well, that's what I'm meaning.
But this is our third election cycle at being in the business, right?
I think so.
Yeah, right. And every one of these, we have people come to us and say, well, I'm going to wait for after the election. And you have to ask them, like, well, what do you think is going to happen after the election? What do you think is going to, tell me what part of the election is going to have an effect on the market? And there's really nothing that they have. They just think this is going to change, but there's no data.
I think what scares people too is that they see a lot of price reductions right now. And it's like, you got to think about it. During the pandemic market, the sales price just skyrocketed so fast.
Yep.
Like overnight.
Oh, yeah.
A $300,000 neighborhood went to a $450,000 neighborhood.
Exactly.
And people saw that for about 2 years straight.
Yeah.
And now that the market has cooled off because interest rates skyrocketed, well, not really skyrocketed, went back to normal.
They were pretty high. They were in the low 8s for a little bit. That's a little higher than normal. But.
So they, went back to a normal rate, and now you just see sellers that kind of missed that opportunity.
Those sellers,
because we still have sellers that want to get as much as they can.
They want 2021 prices.
Yes.
And today that is what I would call an aspirational price.
Yes.
Right? They're trying
And
to.
buyers are a lot more educated now. They're not, they're not going to pay that.
Some of the sellers are still trying to set the record price in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right. And those days are behind us. Right.
100%.
Yeah. So the aspirational prices, what ends up happening is there's a price reduction, then a price reduction. But in a normal market, 33% of homes have a price reduction before they go under contract.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you see, I see it all the time in the Facebook groups, in my neighborhood, there's 10 price reductions this week. And you're like, okay, how many homes are on the market in your neighborhood? 50? Well, that's less than 30%, right? So you can't look at these little microcosms.
I know. I've noticed people love to pick certain data points.
And that's it.
And that is it. They don't look at all the other stuff. And it's like, you can't do that.
You have to look at everything.
Yes.
And that's, we do that weekly market update on our social media pages where we go through the market in St. Petersburg every Monday morning. And we're looking at the last 7 days, new listings, new pending contracts, sold listings, the average days on market for those sold listings, the average sales price versus list price ratio, highest price sale, lowest price sale, and a number of price reductions, right? We just put it out there every Monday. Those numbers are always just like this, right? There's not these big swings. Last week it took 30 days on the market to sell. This week it's 70. It's 30, it's 35, it's 37, it's 40. It's all like this.
Yeah.
So the market activity remains pretty steady. And so when people are like, oh, well, the market's crashing. No.
And even I find it funny because back during the pandemic, majority of the buyers were cash.
A lot of them. They had to be, because that's how
I
you had
know.
to compete.
I know, but because then after that, I will hear people, well, so many people are going to be underwater
right.
and all of this. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
The majority of homes in America don't have a mortgage.
yeah.
Right. And those buyers during the pandemic, we helped a lot of people buy homes that wanted to use a mortgage and then ended up not.
Yeah.
They transitioned to being cash buyers just to compete.
Yep.
Right. And they were like, screw it. I'll just use cash. And then once I'm in the house, I'll do a cash out refi.
And that's what happens when you get really low interest rates. You get that competition.
All day long. Dude, when the rates were in the twos, I remember talking to Doug Wagner, one of our lender partners, about just the number of refis that they were doing.
Oh, yeah.
Not even talking about new purchases.
Yeah, because back in 2019, that's when I was working in title, and majority of my business was from lenders doing refis.
Oh, man.
Oh.
If you had a 6 or a 5% interest rate.
Yeah, thank you, Tony Galasso, for all that business.
Tony Galasso. Yeah, but, so back to the topic at hand.
Yeah.
Best time to rent, best time to buy. There's no best time.
Yeah.
It's the right time. When is it right for you?
Yeah.
Right? For your situation, for where you're at in life, or what you're trying to accomplish. Those are the things that you have to decide on your own.
And don't listen to other people's opinions.
Oh my God.
Please don't.
No.
That's just going...
Not only that, when you say don't listen to other people's opinions, please don't listen to people that are not in the industry,
Yes.
who are not paying attention to the day-to-day stuff. I get it that people are like, oh, I read this article, I saw this. Come on.
Not just these gurus on social media and the people that are under news posts talking about the economy and stuff like that. But no, don't listen to those opinions, but get the opinion of a professional agent.
Somebody that's doing it every day.
Yes.
Somebody that is
Somebody
in the
that
marketplace.
is in the marketplace,
Right.
full time, going through it, and has been in it for a while to see the fluctuations
Right.
of the real estate market.
Yeah. Talk to a professional about what your options can be, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lending professional and a real estate professional.
Yes.
Those are the two people you need to talk to.
Yep.
What's my buying power from a lender?
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to do to qualify? It's not just credit score. I love it when we have buyers that call and they go, well, I got a 690 credit score. I'm good. Well, okay, that's part of the equation.
Yeah.
How are you paid? Are you 1099? Are you W-2? Do you get bonuses? Are you salaried? Are you commissioned? Do you have 2-year work history at that? All of a sudden, people find out they're making a few $100,000 a year, but they can't use all that income to qualify because of how they're paid. They don't know that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they're like, shit, I can't buy anything. Or I can't buy what I want, right? Mm-hmm. So anyways, you talk to a lender, find out what your buying power is, and then you talk to a real estate agent. What's the market like? I'm thinking about buying in this neighborhood. I'm probably at this sales price. Like, what are my options here? What is the process? I've never bought a home before. I don't know how it works, right? All those good things. And then you make the decision.
Yep.
Do I re-sign my lease or do I go out there and buy something? Makes me think of something else. If you're in a renting situation with a lease coming up, start this about 6 months before your lease. Don't call a real estate agent when your lease ends next month.
Yeah, no.
It's
You
too
need to
late.
plan it in advance.
It's too late. Yeah. Because you need to have everything moving and get a property under contract at least be 1 month before your lease ends. And otherwise you're going to end up in a situation where you've got 2 payments for a month or so, right? So, I think I'm out of gas on this topic. Do you have
I
anything
think
else?
I am too. I can't think of anything at the moment to add, but
Okay.
I think that's the gist of it.
I want to thank Tony for the question because
Yes.
when he sent it, I was like, that's a good topic, right?
Yeah, we get asked that all the time, and it's just,
Yeah.
it's a really good question. So
All right.
thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And then, listen, if you guys have a real estate need here in the Tampa St. Petersburg area, reach out to either Tina or myself. We're going to link our contact information in the screen here for us. And then watch this on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel.
And go give us a follow on Instagram. You
Yes.
can find me at Tina Romanik _. And Joey, your Instagram handle is?
Just at Joey Romanik.
And we will catch you guys in the next episode.
Thanks, guys.